Okay, it's time for me to talk. It must be Tuesday. It must be time for Student of the Gun Radio. And thank you for being with us again on a Tuesday. Got through the first day of the week. Time for the second day. It's time to talk about gun-related stuff, freedom-related stuff, liberty-related stuff. And we've got a lot of that for you today. Now, we had a report recently, was it about a month or two ago, Jared? When the news broke that the Army had officially put out the contract, they put out bids, or they were going to be, quote, accepting bids for a new pistol. And that obviously led to a tremendous amount of speculation in the gun world. And the reason that we mentioned it, that we brought it up on the show, was because what do we have, Jared? Do you remember? Search your memory. And you guys, you're like, oh, Mr. Cotter. You're like, you talked about it because some hippie liberal journalist said that the Army, the emergency rooms across the nation needed to prepare themselves for the mass slaughter that was going to take place when the Army chose a new pistol. Because the pistol that the Army chooses is a virtual killing machine.
Well, maybe that's why it's taken so long for them to pick a new one, because they read that article and they just don't want that to happen.
Oh, they're afraid that...
They're afraid.
Wasn't that in like the Yahoo Financial Times or something crazy like that? The financial section of Yahoo News or something. But yeah, the great fear of the writer of that article was that American citizens were going to get a hold of this lethal force killing machine known as the Army Service Pistol.
And that is why she writes for financial
For Yahoo
topics.
Finance?
Yeah.
But before, you know what, Jared? Before we get in deep into the weeds and all the stuff that we want to talk about today, I'm going to go ahead and unwrap one of my Christmas presents.
I already ate mine.
And you're like, what? You're still unwrapping Christmas presents? Well, yeah. Actually, you want to know what a cool wife I have? Let me tell you what a cool wife I have.
I know what a cool wife you have.
and our listeners do too. But one of the Christmas presents I got this year was a box full of chocolates, but not any chocolates. These are gourmet chocolates filled with Johnnie Walker. That's right. They have a creamy Johnnie Walker center. And they are real alcohol, and they're very, very tasty. So I'm going to go ahead and break into one of those. And while I do that, Jared's going to tell you all what you guys need to do to be part of the SWAT Fuel Challenge for 2015. That's something that we've kicked off. We kicked it off last week, and a lot of you guys have jumped into it, and you're getting on board, and we're proud of you. We're very excited.
While he's over there drinking his Johnnie Walker alcohol out of his little chocolate covering, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. The SWAT Fuel Challenge, if you guys haven't been listening, or if you have and you want to hear it again, is it's something that we are able to bring to you because of SWAT Fuel. They're going to give the winner of the SWAT Fuel Challenge a free year supply. That's an entire year's supply of SWAT Fuel. And what you need to do to be eligible for that is, first of all, you need to have some fitness goals for yourself. You need to be physically fit or physically active in getting physically fit. And after you do that, you need to go to the SWAT Fuel Challenge Facebook page. You go to facebook.com, and then at the top there you type in SWAT Fuel Challenge, and it'll come up with the event. I want you to take some pictures of yourself working out or whatever you do. We had one dude that was doing squats with his kid on his shoulders. That counts. That's pretty creative. Take pictures of you doing something physically active and post it to your Facebook page, your Twitter page, your whatever social media you use. Instagram.
Instagram is a good one because those stay up for a long time.
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter both do that, but Instagram would be the easiest for anybody. But do that. Post a picture to whatever social media you want, and I need you to put a hashtag SWAT Fuel Challenge so I can find you. If I can't find you, then obviously you can't win. And then tag at the little at symbol, Student of the Gun, and that also helps me find you. So if you do both of them, that you're like doubling your chances there. What else? What did I talked a lot about?
Well, no, the main thing, I'm going to not correct you, but I want you to add on to this because some people think that, well, that's easy for you to say because you're already athletic, and it doesn't count for me because I'm not physically fit. Well, you can be 68 years old and be physically fit. You can also be 28 years old and be a couch potato. You don't have to be a professional athlete or occupational athlete to be fit. You just have to be a living human being. Whatever position you're in right now, wherever you're at, it doesn't matter. That's your starting point. And having goals, you don't have to be a pro football player, an MMA guy, or whatever, to be physically fit. And saying that, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this out. Am I allowed to?
Sure.
All right, let me check and see if this is my show. Yep, it's still my show. Making excuses for yourself, anybody can make excuses. Oh, well, I'm not in shape, so I'm not going to do it. Or I have this, or I'm going to do that, or whatever. And it's easy to make excuses. Excuses are cheap. Excuses are free. They're worth what you pay for them, and that would be nothing. So, folks, don't feel sorry for yourself. Be motivated. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. That's why we started the SWAT Fuel Challenge, so that you can go on to it and you can look and say, oh, these guys are doing it. This guy considers himself to be 30 pounds or 40 pounds overweight, and he's doing it. So what's my excuse? She's doing it. What's my excuse? I don't know. What is your excuse? I'm 64 years old. Okay, are you physically fit? My friend Bob Taubert is a he's a retired FBI agent, and they call him The Rock. Bob's in his 60s, and he's one hardcore dude. Bob makes me ashamed. When I think about Bob, I'm like, I better get in the gym. I need to go lift heavy things because I'm ashamed to be around. I'm not really ashamed, but he motivates me. I'm like, if he can be in his 60s and be hard as a rock like he is, then why can't I? And that's what it's all about. It's all about motivation. And you're not trying to impress other people. It's the guy in the mirror or the girl in the mirror. That's who you need to impress. You're not doing it for me. You're not doing it for Jared. You're doing it for you. And that's the big question, and I think we put this up on the whiteboard wisdom last week or something. It says training is an investment in yourself. And the question you have to ask yourself is, am I worth that investment? And that's really all it is to it. And if it's not your bag, if you got a really comfortable beanbag chair in your parents' basement and you got a jumbo-sized bag of Cheetos, rock on. That's your life, man. That's your world. Live in it. But if you want to join us, if you want to have a little bit of fun, you want to get involved, just go to Facebook and type in the words SWAT Fuel Challenge. Jump on there, take a look at it, and get going. We've got a lot of people that have already gone. Can they still get into it, Jared?
Yeah, they can still get into it. That's go to the Facebook page, and it'll give you all the rules. And I rephrased the rules, so if you have 8 pictures in there on February 1st, that equals 2 per week. You can upload them the day before. I don't care. But guess what? If you have the same clothes on in all of them, I know that you did it all at the same time and you weren't consistently working out.
You know what you need to do? You need to change your clothes.
Yeah, so bring at least...
But what if I always work out in the same clothes every day?
Well, then you need to get new pairs of clothes. At least if you're going to do that, if you're going to do all the pictures at one time, then you need to bring 4 different pairs of clothes with you and change in between pictures. There you go. I gave you a lanyard or a loophole. There's a loophole for you.
All right.
I just want to let you know that what Dad said about the excuse making is ridiculous. Anybody can make excuses. Not everybody can actually apply themselves. Only people that apply themselves end up being great or reaching their goals. And goals are important. You need to set goals for yourself, set a date and a weight that you want to be on that date, or some kind of improvement that you want to achieve by that date. And then put it on your calendar, write it where you can see it. That alone will motivate you.
That is a good little lanyap, and we actually I was going to do we're doing the fitness challenge or the fitness tip
on Wednesday. I was
just
thinking that.
Save the detailed fitness tip for tomorrow, but we just wanted to let everybody know that the SWAT Fuel Challenge is going on right now, and you can't get in on that. Now,
wait, one more thing.
Go ahead.
You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Oh, you like that? That's a little bit of Yoda Buddha wisdom there. Thank you to SWAT Fuel. And if you go to SWATfuel.com, make sure you use the promo code SOTG2014. Save yourself 20% off your total order. Pretty righteous. Oh, speaking of righteous stuff, if you're not subscribed to Student of the Gun Homeroom on YouTube, we put up videos constantly. Well, not constantly, but infrequently.
Well, we're going to be putting up constantly. I've got plenty of stuff to put up now. So.
It's SOTG Homeroom. So get it like Student of the Gun University, like a homeroom on YouTube. If you're not checking that out yet, you want to, because this week Jared just actually put up, well, it was last week as you're hearing this, he put up a video interview of me and Dr. Dan O of SWAT Fuel, and Dan talks about fitness, nutrition, supplements, vitamins, and all that good stuff. So it's a little bit of motivation. It's like a 7 or 8 minute video. So make sure that if you're a YouTuber or Facebooker or whatever, go over there and check that out. Watch that video. A little bit of behind the scenes stuff in the Student of the Gun studios. Thank you to XS Sights, the fastest sights in any light. Thank you to Velocity Triggers. Velocity Triggers are designed for precision, and you can check them out at velocitytriggers.com. Colt at colt.com, the makers of the LE901 rifle, and Brownells, brownells.com. I'm sure that Brownells will have a lot of new and cool stuff that they're releasing at SHOT Show this year. They always do. They always have a handful of unique items that they're releasing. Basically, if you own a gun, any kind of gun, pistol, rifle, shotgun. If you own a gun, there's something in the Brownells catalog for you, so check them out at brownells.com. Now, the meat of the story today, now that I have my chocolate fix with a little bit of Johnny Walker mixed in there, the meat of today's story is Army is moving closer to a new pistol based upon their recent refusal or rejection of the Beretta. And you're like, ooh, now you have my attention, Paul. Well, let me set the table for you. First and foremost, the M9 Beretta. It's easy to hate the Beretta because everybody does. But the fact is, if the Beretta was a show, if the Beretta was the piece of crap that everyone says it is, it wouldn't still be in service. I mean, the Army, as stubborn as they are, they're not stupid. They're not going to use something that won't work, that won't fire, that won't go bang. The problem with the Beretta is it is a large pistol. There's nothing wrong with large pistols, but it's not only large in size, but it has a fat frame, which is good because it has a double-stack magazine, but not so good because if you have small hands, it's kind of difficult to wrap your paws around. It is basically a pistol for people with big paws. If you've got big paws, the Beretta is for you. If you have long thumbs to reach up and work the safety/decocker, the Beretta is for you. If you have little itty-bitty hands and little short stubby thumbs, it's kind of a chore. Now, not to say you can't do it. I've taught, when I was working for the military, little women that were 4'11", 5'1", 5'2", with these little Lilliputian munchkin hands. Taught them how to use it. They just had to figure out a way to make it work for them. Now, if you ask me, and you did because you're listening, the biggest problem that we have with the M9 Beretta pistol is it's not even the size, it's not the caliber, it's the action. It is the operation of the gun. And I know why they decided to do what they did, because 30 years ago, the fact is, in 1986, when they decided that they were going to adopt the M9 Beretta pistol, what they were coming off of was the M1911A1 semi-automatic single-action 45 ACP pistol. And how did the U.S. Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, how did everybody in the service carry their pistols? Well, they carried them per SOP with the hammer down on an empty chamber and a magazine inserted. And most of the time, most of the units that I was with, you would load either 5 or 6 rounds into it. And you're like, 5 or 6? What are you talking about, Paul? I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. Back then, in the 70s and 80s, they were worried about spring fatigue in the magazines because, let's face it, when in World War II came along, they built crazy amounts of 1911 pistols. thousands upon hundreds of thousands of 1911 pistols. And so when the war ended, they had plenty of guns. When I went through basic training in 1987, the 1911 pistols that we qualified with, if you could call it that, basically they said, here's a gun and ammunition, point it in that direction. That's how it works. They were made in the 40s. The guns that I carried when I joined the infantry, when I got into the Marine Corps infantry, when I was on the Forrestal, those 1911s were all made in the 40s. Because think about it, folks. Why would the Army spend money on new guns or building new guns when they had hundreds of thousands of them that were made during World War II? Well, the truth of the matter is they wouldn't. And so they didn't. And so all the guns that were in service when they switched over to the M9 were at least 40 years old. That is old for a service gun. And they didn't buy new ones. When one broke, they just cannibalized parts from other guns and had the gunsmith work on it and make a new one work. That's all they did. And so we were doing silly things like basically carrying empty chamber, hammer down, with 5 or 6 rounds loaded in the magazine because they were afraid the magazines would get too much wear on their springs. Yes, it's true. This is the position we were in. You guys who are listening to me who were in the military back in the 80s, you know of which I speak. Well, when they came up with the M9 Beretta, for the first time in 40, 50 years, the military had to actually think about not only how they were going to carry the guns, but how they were going to train with the guns, how they were going to teach the troops to use the guns. Had to come up with new holsters, new magazines, magazine pouches, all that jazz, right? Well, they did it. And what they had was you had a situation where for the first time in basically 40 years, they had to go back and look at the training SOPs, at the method of carry. I mean, we went from carrying 1911 45s hammered down in an empty chamber to M9s with 15 rounds, loaded chamber, hammered down, decocked by the decock/safety lever. So it was a time when they changed the qualification course. They made us draw from the holster. For up to that point in time, folks, when I qualified with the 1911, I qualified by picking it up off of a table, loading it, shooting it, and when I was done, I set it back down on the table, and I moved to the next firing yard line. There was no drawing from the holster in the qualification course. They decided, well, we might want to make these guys actually start with a loaded gun in their holster and shoot that way. What? That's crazy. And when you teach young troops, when you teach them to shoot, and the problem that the 1911 fans had with the Beretta is now you're going from a consistent, relatively light, single-action trigger press to a ridiculously long and almost cumbersome double-action press and then to a single-action press. So when you're teaching young skulls full of mush, you got your 18-year-old E1s, and you want to teach them how to use this thing, you have to train them to use master two separate trigger presses. And believe it or not everybody who joins the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines today is a gun person. Not everyone who does that has experience. As a matter of fact, most don't. Most of the kids that I was training, the first time they ever picked up a gun was when they joined the military. And so you have to teach this kid who's never shot a gun how to master 2 different trigger presses. Can you do it? Yes, you can. The problem is not just teaching them to do it once, but having them maintain that skill. Because let's face it, folks, you like to shoot, right? You're listening to me. You probably like to shoot. You shoot recreationally. You buy your own ammo. You have your own guns. You go out to the range. You get some training. You get some practice. You do it when you want to. If you're a young trooper, you don't really get to go to the range all the time. As a matter of fact, because of budgets and time, you may not go to the range very often at all. The only people that go to the range a lot in the military are special operations. Your average troopers, they go, if they're issued a pistol, they'll go once a year and, quote, qualify with it after their initial training. And that's it. All the rest of it is up to them. So how do we teach people to master the instrument and then maintain that level of skill? Did you want to interject something? Because you're kind of fidgeting over there on the other side of the glass.
No.
You got something
Well,
to say?
not anymore. You said something about, can we do it? Yes, we can. And it made me think of, I thought Bob the Builder was on the other side of the microphone.
Oh, really? Is that true?
Yeah, it sounded just like Bob the Builder.
All right. Well, this story comes to us from military.com, and the dateline is January 9th, 2015. Army rejects M9A3 proposal, opts for a new pistol. U.S. Army weapons officials will not evaluate an improved version of the service's Cold War-era 9mm pistol, choosing instead to search for a more modern soldier sidearm. In December, Beretta USA, the maker of the U.S. military's M9 for 30 years, submitted its modernized M9A3 as a possible alternative to the Army's modular handgun system program in an effort to replace the M9 with a more powerful state-of-the-art pistol. I really hope they don't issue a more powerful pistol, because what do we already know? The M9 is a lethal force killing machine, and if they come up with one that's more powerful, the emergency rooms in America better stand by for the carnage that will ensue.
Well, that's exactly.
Didn't she
yeah,
say
she
carnage?
Said carnage?
She used the word carnage. Carnage will ensue. Anyway, but if you don't know about the A3, the M9A3, what they essentially did is they it says new sights, a rail for mounted lights and accessories, and better ergonomics. Basically, they just carved on the frame a little bit and improved improved reliability. Well, why do we have to have a new gun to have improved reliability? Why didn't we have reliability before? Well, the big thing with the Beretta is they are reliable pistols if they're kept clean and you keep the sand out of the frame, or out of the slide, that is. Yeah, you were going to say something?
No.
Okay, cool. Well, long story short, it says right now the Army Public Affairs Office has approved a statement that says yada yada. The Army will be working with the small arms industry to replace nearly 500,000 pistols. That's a big pistol order. Current plans call for the Army to purchase more than 280,000 handguns from a single vendor, with delivery of the first handgun systems. They keep saying handgun systems. Is that like weapons platform?
A modular handgun system. That's what the MHS. That's what they're calling it.
But in the article it says they're going to take delivery of the first new handgun systems.
Yeah.
Weapons platform in 2017, according to the PEO soldier officials. Okay. The Army plans to also purchase or to buy approximately 7,000 subcompact versions of the handgun. Whoopity-doo! All right. The other military services participating, yada, 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 will get the other remaining 212,000. So, as you guys probably know, the United States Army is the service that is in charge of procuring small arms for the United States military. Whether you're Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, it is the Army that is in charge of evaluating and buying the guns. And whatever they decide to evaluate and purchase, that is what the conventional forces of all the other services get. Now, don't tell me that your friend is a SEAL and he has an HK. I know. If you're small units, if you're special ops, you can carry other stuff. If you're MARSOC, if you're Delta, and they don't call themselves Delta anymore, they call themselves CAG, but whatever. Yes, you can carry other stuff, but we're talking about hundreds of guns versus hundreds of thousands of guns. Now, the question on everybody's lips, and all you gun guys and girls out there are pretty excited about this news, and you want to impose your wishes via Facebook and Twitter and social media and forums and so forth. And we've seen lots of stuff. Oh, they need to go with a 40 caliber FN. They need to go with you insert your favorite gun here. But and people are like, they need to go back to the 1911. Folks, I love you like brothers and sisters, but those of you who think that they're just going to go back to a 1911 and just forget about the last 30 years, I don't know what it is that you're consuming, but you need to slow down and back off on your consumption of that thing. That's not going to happen. They're not going to go back. And I don't care that the Marine Corps bought 2,000 special Desert Tan 1911s. That doesn't mean that the Army's going to buy 280,000 of them. Okay. Especially when you're talking about unit price. Because right now it says that they have $350 million budgeted for this. Now, that's budgeted, so does that mean that they're not going to spend $400 million? No, it's the government. They put out a budget and then they spend whatever they want to spend. We all know that. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes down to per unit price, it is going to matter. And if you have a custom 1911 whose per unit price is $1,200, and you could get 3 Glock 17s for that $1,200, what are you probably going to buy if you're buying 200,000 guns? Well, you're probably going to buy the one that's per unit cost is $400 or $350 or what have you. The fact of the matter is the striker-fired guns that have molded polymer frames, whether it's an M&P or an XD or a G-Lock or the new SIG variant that has a polymer frame and a steel slide, whatever it happens to be, the fact is you're probably, and they said, remember, one of the things it says it must be a modular handgun system. Now, how modular does it have to be? We're talking about changing out back straps and all that stuff. And can I be honest with you, folks? I think I can be honest with you because that's why I'm here. Changing the back straps, that's really high-end customization stuff. Is the average G.I. Joe or G.I. Jane, I hate that term, but the average Joe, the average trooper, are they really going to achieve that great of benefit from being able to change the back strap from medium, large to small? And the fact of the matter is, most of these guns aren't issued to these kids as individuals. Yeah, they might sign them out to them, but how long are they going to have them? Dudes and dudettes, when I got issued my first M9 Beretta, it had a left-handed magazine release button. Now, because the reason is an armorer had flipped it around for somebody who had left hands. And what we did is we all kind of became backdoor armorers, and we figured out how to change stuff on our own guns. But when it comes to all these different accessories, let's face it, we're talking about troopers here. We're talking about E1s and E2s and so forth. How many options are you going to give them? How many gadgets and things are you going to give them? They're lucky to have the gun, much less all the other accessories that go with them. Like I said, we're not talking about special operations here. We're talking about the average G.I. Joe. So what you want is a gun that in and of itself is a pretty even fit for people. And also you want one that is obviously reliable. You want one that has a consistent trigger press. And that really is the nut. The Berettas that I worked with the last 3-4 years or so, the U.S. military issued Berettas, the triggers were horrible. The triggers were really criminally bad. They were terrible. They didn't have to be terrible. They just were. And even the specs were like, it said the double action, the military spec was anywhere from 12 to 15 pounds for the initial trigger press, and then anywhere from 5 to 7 or 5 to 8 for the single action. It was ridiculous. So if you get something like a G17 or an M&P 9 or what have you, and it has a consistent, reliable trigger press that you can teach little Johnny G.I. Joe one trigger press all the time, it's going to work. That's what they need. When you're teaching these kids, and the less controls, the better. I know all you SIG fans, all you 220s and 226 fans, and you're like, dude, the military already has a SIG. It's called the M11. And I know that. But ask yourself this. Why aren't they buying 250,000 M11s and issuing them out as standard to the troops? Probably a reason for that.
Speaking of having more controls and stuff like that, Dad did a homeroom video that I'm going to be releasing soon about mental jumping jacks and how that affects your training and your performance when you actually have to use it for real, have to use the gun for real.
Mental gymnastics.
Yeah, is that what I said?
No, you jumping jacks, but yeah.
Same thing.
Mental
But anyway,
gymnastics.
yeah, go to the Student of the Gun YouTube, Homeroom YouTube, SOTG Homeroom on YouTube, or sign up for the newsletter, and we'll let you know when that's coming out.
All right, well, we're going to move off the Army pistol topic, and we're going to let you guys talk amongst yourselves, and we'll let you put out your Facebook wish list of all the things that you think it should be. You know, it should be an XD in 357 SIG or what have you. So moving on from that, we're going to talk about pants on, guns off. No, pants on, guns on. Folks, how many times have we on this show in particular brought to you real-life cases of people who were at home, and while they were at home, not necessarily in the middle of the night, you know, not 2 a.m., but in the daytime. We just talked about that with Julie, about the one that we actually had the audio for it, where a woman's home in the middle of the day. We talked about why you would actually have your gun on you. And we've got another example, and this comes to us from ammoland.com. And the title of the story is Another Reason for a Gun at the Door. And I'll go ahead and read it to you. It says, he believed that his days as a high school football center were long gone. He has been the pillar of his community, a town council member, a Lions Club president, and lots of other good stuff. He lives in a large house on a dirt road in the country in Castiac, California. Confused motorists often stop and ask directions, according to the commenter, who claimed to be related. It was about 10:30 on Sunday night when he answered the door. And the he in this case is Mr. Jeff Preach. And it says, according to ABC7.com, Mr. Preach says, I opened the door and said, "What do you want?" Adding that the suspect began mumbling. So finally he goes, "I want $1 million. And I said, "Well, you come to the wrong house, pal." When Preach denied him, the suspect allegedly punched him in the face. Then the punch escalated to a knockdown, drag-out fight in the doorway of this guy's home. Preach had undergone back surgery 3 weeks before. It was not supposed to lift more than 10 pounds. Memories of his high school football days kicked in as he pinned his assailant to the floor. Then the effects of the surgery, 45 years and some intense combat, set in. After minutes, he thought he could no longer hold the 22-year-old Salvador Medrano. By this time, Preach's wife was calling 911. That's good, because the phone will get the bad person off of your husband. And the house guest, Larry Benzel, arrived to take over holding down Medrano. Benzel had undergone hernia surgery just days before. While Benzel, 52, held Medrano, Preach got a shotgun, loaded one cartridge. Benzel's stitches were torn in the struggle. With the loading of the shotgun, Medrano stopped struggling. But after deputies arrived a small time later, it took 5 of them to subdue him. Okay, so here we go. It turned out that Medrano was admitted being on heroin, had run out of gas, and was gone to the home to get money. People who are on drugs have amazing stamina, and adrenaline could do the same thing. All right, long story short, here we go. We got a guy who answers his front door in the nighttime. It's 10:30 at night. You get a knock on your front door, and you go to the door, but you don't take a gun with you. Because why? Because why, Jared? Because it would be rude?
Because
you're not paranoid?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it would be rude, because I'm not paranoid, because I don't want to live that way, because who does want to live that way? Well, I don't know. I want to live, period. So I will take a gun. And folks, this leads me into the story, and this is something this is a topic that we've harped on. But apparently not everyone in the gun industry gets it. Just recently, was yet another commercial, 30-second spot, put out by a firearms industry manufacturer. And it's that we've seen it before. Glock has done it several times, I think, at least twice. Some other companies have mimicked it, whether they're ammo companies or gun companies or what have you, where it used to be, Jared, you remember the ubiquitous parking garage ads? How many did we have?
The dark parking garage.
The dark parking garage. It's like the whole world like frequents dark parking garage. We had, I think it was Hornady, Taurus, Crimson Trace.
Well, maybe they were probably catering their ads to people here on the Gulf Coast because, the casinos, people work there.
Oh, yeah, that's
dark parking garages.
But for a while there was a whole spate of commercials / magazine ad type things with parking garages. I know Crimson Trace did one. I know Taurus did one. Hornady did one. I'm pretty sure another company did one. But they were all almost identical. Lone woman walking through a parking garage late at night. Bad guy comes up. They use their gun to stop him. All that stuff.
They didn't have 4 guys with their guns drawn and one plug in his ears?
No.
Oh, okay.
So the new thing is to show a woman at home at night watching TV, right? You have the lone woman sitting on her couch watching TV, and a stranger comes to the door. And what do, Jared? So they realize something's wrong. This is the famous Glock commercial. This happened, and is pretty similar to the new commercial. But what do?
They run and get a gun.
They get up.
Instead of.
They run to their bedroom where the gun is reasonably and responsibly secured in a finger safe or something like that, right? They run to where the gun is, and then they kneel down behind their bed and they wait for the bad guy to break into the bedroom, right? We've seen this at least twice now. There may be another one out there that I'm not aware of, and that's nice, and it's fine. I mean, it highlights their products and so forth, and people get all excited and so forth. But Jared, what is the big number one problem with and we're not talking about people that are asleep in their beds. We're talking about people that are in their houses and they're doing stuff, and then the bad guy comes, kicks in the door.
They don't have a gun on them.
They don't have a gun on them. Oh, come on, Paul. Are you telling me that I should have a gun on me even when I'm at home? No. What I'm telling you is that if you're awake and you are dressed and you're moving about in your day, whether you're at home, whether you're at work, whether you're at play, whether you're whatever, if you are serious about personal protection, if you are serious about self-defense, yes, you should have a gun attached to your body. And in these commercials, that's always the bad guy in the stocking cap and the hoodie, and he's slinking around, and he shakes the door handle, and he gives the person in question plenty of time to get up, realize something's wrong, move towards their bedroom, access the gun. What do you do if it's like the lady in Texas? You guys remember the woman in Texas, the young mother who had to fight her way into her bedroom to get a gun because 3 people broke into her house, smashed through a window, entered the house, and now there was 3 bad guys between her bedroom, and her young child. They didn't watch that commercial, apparently. What if, like the young mother in Atlanta, who's the middle of the day, like 12 o'clock, 12:30, something like that, is at home, got the little crumb cruncher playing on the floor, she's doing housework. Next thing she knows, she turns around, and there's a monster in her living room punching her in the face. Hang on, let me run upstairs to my bedroom. Hang on, didn't you see that commercial? You're supposed to shake the door handle really loudly, and then I run to my bedroom.
Well, what if there's more than one person that enters your home? What if one comes from one side and one comes from the other? And as you're running to get your gun, you run into the second person.
What if, and forget about that, I mean, that's valid, but what if it's not just you? All these scenarios are the lone single woman home by themselves. What if there's kids? What if there's other adults? What do you do if you're a mom and you have 2 or 3 kids? Are you going to be able to grab up all of your kids and herd them into the back bedroom before the bad person can smash through the back door? What if they smash through? Maybe the first time you realize there's a bad person there is when they kick in your back door. So there you are, standing in the living room, kitchen, laundry room, whatever. You have a bad person who just broke in through the back door. You got your kids scattered throughout the house. How are you going to herd all those kids into the back room so that you can run back there, hit the code on the finger safe, get your gun out, kneel down behind the bed? Folks, it's really super simple. If your pants are on, your gun should be on. That's it. I had somebody, I can't even remember who it was. It was one of my firearms mentors, and somebody asked him, or he said he related to us in a class. He said, somebody asked me, they're like, well, do you always have a gun, or you have a gun on? And he said, are my pants on? And they're like, yeah. He said, well, then yeah, I have a gun on. And they're like, well, you mean you carry a gun all the time? Yeah, that's kind of the whole point of being an armed citizen. You know, Jeff Cooper, I'm paraphrasing Cooper, but Cooper in one of his books, he said, if you can't reach a firearm in 3 seconds, you have missed the point of this book. You've missed the lesson of being an armed citizen. An armed citizen is not somebody who owns guns and has them locked in safes where, hang on a sec, I'll be back in a little bit. I've got a Kimber with HydroShocks in a gun safe. Well, that's easy for you to say, Paul. No, it's not easy for me to say. The fact of the matter is this. Whether you believe me or whether you don't, whether you appreciate my advice or whether you don't, does not change the fact that there are monsters in the world. And one of these days, you may encounter one of these monsters. And when you encounter one of these monsters and they decide they're going to do bodily harm to you, make sure that you tell them that you don't believe it, that you don't think it's reasonable. Make sure you tell them that you don't want to live the life of a paranoid person, so you've chosen not to be armed. Make sure you tell them that. Make sure you tell them that your company policy forbids you from being armed. That's why they found you in the parking lot unarmed and are about to bash your skull in with a piece of pipe. Tell them, hey, you can't bash my skull in with that pipe, because my company policy says I'm not allowed to be armed with any type of, weapon. Make sure you tell them that right before they cave your skull in. Go ahead. Memorize that sentence right there. Maybe you could get a copy of your company policy and you could hold it up as the rapist is smashing your head to the ground. Hold the company policy up and show them that your company forbids you to have any type of weapon on you at all, and then that will stop them. So when you get to work today, make sure you print up your company policy so that you keep it in your pocket, so when the rapist, robber, murderer, the drug addict who wants money, when they attack you, you can show them the company policy, and then they will stop.
And if your company has a policy that does not allow you to be armed, one, why do you work there?
Well, I have to have it. You don't understand how it's not easy like you have it easy, Jared.
Yeah, I've had it easy.
You've got it. You just say these things, but you don't understand.
You're right. I don't understand because I would never work at a place that didn't allow me to be armed.
Well, not everyone has choices to make.
Or maybe I would. I would just be armed. What are they going to? Are they going to fire me?
What if you lose your job?
What do you
do then?
I go find another job.
Oh, you mean? But isn't it better to be maimed for life or murdered than to lose your job?
Well, I mean, to some people, apparently. But my question...
Everybody's got priorities to make.
Yeah, my question to you guys who work at a place that has a company policy like that, why have you not got with your coworkers and said, look, this company... Because I'm not going to get too far into it because we're at the end of the episode here.
Yeah,
but basically what I'm trying to say is get together with your coworkers and bring up the issue with whoever owns your company or your supervisor. Make it uncomfortable for whoever is your immediate boss. That's how you make changes. You make it uncomfortable for them.
Yeah, well, hey,
and
folks.
if you're listening to me and you are a boss that has that policy, you're an idiot.
You're wrong. You're wrong like testicular cancer. You're wrong like penis cancer. Isn't that right? Is it? I cleaned it up because it's not the bonus hour. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, thank you for joining us for yet another adventure into Student of the Gun Radio. We appreciate you guys being out there. We are glad to bring this show to you each and every day. And we'll be right back. Well, we'll not be right back. We'll be back tomorrow, unless you're one of those cats that saves up your episodes and listen to them all the time. And then we'll be back as soon as you can click play. Now, remember, you're a beginner once, but you should indeed be what? A student for life.